pitched a John Stewart story. It was never a screw the Green Lanterns. It's just about John. It was like, I just want to tell this cool story about John Stewart. Oh, great, let's do that. And then it's sort of over a year turned into what you guys are going to see.
Welcome back to the Comics Cube. Geoff Thorne is back. We are recording this a few days after Future State Green Lantern #2 came out, and we are recording this before the physical release of Truth and Justice #1,
True.
Vixen, and also a few days after Planet of the Symbiotes, Black Panther, and
King in Black.
And I'm not sure when the King in Black, Black Panther.
Right.
Sorry. And I'm not sure when the Planet of the Symbiotes issue is coming out.
Next week. Next week.
It's coming out next
well,
week.
whenever, I don't know when this will air, whenever you'll post this, but the Vixen hard copy comes out next Tuesday. The Planet of Symbiotes comes out next Wednesday.
And Geoff, has it been a year for you or what?
I mean, it seems like it. It's only February. It's like, yeah, I mean, I knew what was coming, obviously. It was a lot of fun to get going. These artists are great. I got to work with, obviously, Tom Rainey, who's someone I loved from, years ago. And I got to work with Germán Peralta. I can't ever say his name right. That guy's a monster. He's going to blow up huge. He is, like, freaking amazing. Obviously, Chris Cross on the Vixen thing, and Jan. I can never remember Jan's last name. Jan Baldazura, I want to say.
Baldazura,
Baldazura. She's a monster too. Jesus, she's insanely good. I felt like I was looking at early Joe Mad artwork when her stuff started coming over. So I was just like, holy crap. So it's been a really fun. It's been really fun. I get getting now to work with Dexter Soy. He's a monster as well. He's a monster.
From the Philippines.
He's great. Philippines are not Philippines. He's just awesome. He just brings a really different sensibility to the work than all the other guys do, which you want, right? You want all the artists to have such a unique style that it's just fun to see their art come through. And there's probably a couple of other surprises I'm not allowed to mention, art-wise. Like I couldn't say about the Brian Hitch alternative cover, the variant cover. Can't. There's going to be more stuff like that coming. It's not up to me, but I'm happy to see it. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, more importantly, I know what it is. I wrote it. What did you think?
Let's talk about Green Lantern. What did you do?
Look.
Like,
the weirdest.
I spoke to you before the first one came out, and then you killed Nort, and I was like, "Did you kill Nort?"
Yes, I did kill Nort. Yes, I did. And you guys should all consider yourselves lucky, because our editor, Mike Cotton, said that death of Nort was too gruesome the first time out. So he forced Tom to redraw that page because it was too rough for the audience, apparently. We were like, what?
What was it supposed to be?
Well, like I've told you the last time around, I want real deaths to have weight. Mm-hmm. So that one you could sort of go, is he dead, is he not dead? The one we ended up getting printed, you could see he got stabbed, but there was some doubt, right? Like people were asking questions, did he die, is he dead? I'm not going to say, because if it's not clear to you, I don't want to spoil it, because maybe that'll be more drama for the next issue. But the first time around, the way he got killed, you were like, oh, dear God. Like, what is happening? It was gruesome.
Did you get decapitated or something?
I mean, sort of ripped in half, but like very, very, like, graphically ripped in half.
There's another Green Lantern named Geoff who specializes in that kind of thing.
Oh. So, yeah, I mean, I was trying to... It's so hard not to give spoilers on that stuff when you know what's coming. I've told people you have to read my comics. Don't just look at the hot pictures, because the pictures are always going to be great. Obviously you want to look at them, and I love them. The art coming through makes my day every day. But if you don't actually read it, you won't be able to keep up. Some of it will look weird. And there are lots of little clues in issue one if you know your DC history that you should go, that's an interesting last name. Where did I hear that last name from before? That's huh. And the whole thing with the God in Red, I saw everybody thinking it was Atrocitus, and I was like, why would it be Atrocitus? Why everybody? There's plenty of people who wear red. It could be anybody. You don't know, and it could have been Trigon. You don't know.
It could have been Trigon, actually.
It could easily have been Trigon. So those kind of clues are going to be the speed of the actual Green Lantern book won't be like this. This was Mad Max.
Yeah.
But you should know from the way that I dropped little weird Easter egg clues in there, you're going to have to know your DC lore to get ahead of the story if you want to be ahead of the story. There are at least 2 mysteries that are going to be in the main GL book.
But I feel like even if they don't know their DC lore, they won't be ahead of the story, but it won't be a problem. They'll be with the story.
Yeah, you'll just be in the story. You don't have to know that, but for old guys like me, like this guy Perch, who does a show like yours, he was like, wait, what's all this Legion of Superheroes lingo from like the 90s? And I was like, oh, really? Did I do that? I don't know what you're talking about. Sprock and Greif and the planet Imsk, like the fact that the thing that you thought was in outer space was actually on his belt the entire time. Like, that's the kind of crap I'm going to be doing in the Green Lantern book. So just get ready, because what you see is not necessarily what's there.
I was going to say, do you have a long-standing attachment to the Legion?
I love the Legion. Long live the freaking Legion.
Long live the Legion.
I love the Legion. I love the Legion. And I'm like people get really mad about it. Like, there's all these different factions. There's a lot of people hating on the Bendis Legion right now. I'm like, everybody gets a Legion. Everybody. There's so many different versions now. My favorite period of time is sort of the Keith Giffen, Tom and Mary Bierbaum back in the day, the Great Darkness, all of that stuff, and the introduction of like the 3 Boot Legion, like where they had the clone legions, the Bat 6 Legion. I loved all that crap. I love the DNA Legion, Abnett and Lanning Legion. Yeah. All of that I love. But other people will say they like the Kurt Swan Legion, or others will say they like the Paul Levitz Legion. All of them are right. Everybody's right. Everybody gets a Legion. Some people like the Mark Waid, where Supergirl was the primary one, and he changed Colossal Boy to Micro Lad, which I thought was hysterical. My power isn't to grow; it's to shrink down to human size.
But that's true, right? Because he was always like in a giant world.
Right, he came from a giant world, so no one else on his planet could shrink down to normal human size. So that was his superpower. He's like, stop calling me Colossal Boy. I'm not colossal. You guys are tiny. I'm the atom on my planet. On my planet, I'm the atom. Okay. Yeah, I love the Legion. And I think there's a lot of good... One of the fun things about working... I mean, a lot of stuff we talked about last time I couldn't say, but...
Would have been a giveaway.
Right. I would have been telling things. So, like, this whole thing with John Kent causing the United Planets to start, well, that's the Legion. That's the whole world of the Legion. So as soon as he did that, that's what sort of inspired me. I'm like, well, if that's 1,000 years in the future, what are they doing now?
Yeah.
Right? So that's where the Imsk, bringing in the Imskins, bringing in the Kuns, all of that came from. This is who they are, right? And even the Vanguard of the God in Red, they're not normal Kuns, right? These guys are out somewhere away from the main group.
They're really far off, yeah.
They are their own. They got their own trip going on. They're like a religious cult, so they're not normal Kuns. They just have a different agenda than the normal what you've seen before. So that helped me shape the story and what cosmic elements I was going to use. I'm not going to say it all leads up to stuff that happens in the Legion of Superheroes, but if you know your Legion of Superheroes, you're going to find a lot of fun little Easter eggs throughout the story.
Can we expect Legion of Superheroes guest appearances coming up in your Green Lantern, or is it more stuff leading up to the Legion?
I don't think you'll see any. I'll say unequivocally, you will not see anyone who's in the Legion show up in this book because that's 1,000 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not going to be any time jumps like that. Nobody's coming back in time. There's none of that. To say that people who influence the growth of the Legion or events that influence the future growth of the Legion don't occur. Now that could happen. That's definitely in play. I haven't decided on a couple of things yet. I'm waiting to hear back from DC editorial about one particular thing. If they let me do this thing, then you may see some very definite Legion connection there. If not, the event will still happen, but it won't have the extra thing of having a Legion connection. So, yeah, and it isn't just a tie-in or build up to the Legion. It's just that's a fun flavor.
Yeah.
That I wanted to add in because I just like it, and we're doing a lot of cosmic stuff. So I wanted the slang to be different. I want the speech patterns to be different. I want relationships between the different species that you're going to see in the mainline book. Things are different than you might expect. The relationship the Guardians have to all of these people has been thrown into question based on them deciding we're now the United Planets. So where does that put the Guardians? Like, we're the Guardians of the freaking universe. How do we fit? So that's a big question that we're going to have to answer.
Before we get too further into your Green Lantern run, I'm going to ask, what did you do to Orion? Like, what was that? I'm like, what the hell?
I have some theories about how the New Gods work.
Yeah.
That I threw at the editorial guys at DC, and they liked them. So without going too far with it, and I don't know if any other writers are going to do anything with this, so, I am just in the Green Lantern book. I am not connecting anything to anything else that's going on. There's no clue here about, like, the new Omega world that they just released, the Elseworld planet. I have no idea what that is. Okay, like, literally zero idea right now. But what I said was, basically, when Kirby introduced the New Gods, his idea was the old gods all killed each other off or tried to get through the source wall, and that's why they're gone. The problem with that was that we still had Wonder Woman running around dealing with the Greek gods. So they clearly all didn't go away, just this one batch, right? So what does that even mean? And then I started thinking, I can't remember, I've talked about people with this, I don't know if we talked about it, but the thing that so the thing that really stuck in my head was, why are Kryptonians not gods? What makes the New Gods any different than Krypton? If Krypton hadn't blown up and they'd gone out into space, everywhere that was outside their solar system, as we've seen, the whole planet is Superman. Everyone on the planet is Superman. So they're essentially immortal. They get their life-sustaining energy basically just from the cosmos, right? Like, the right color sun keeps me alive forever and young and vital forever. So why are they not gods? Right? So I extrapolate that out. Well, the reason they're not gods is nobody worships them. And they don't get any of their powers from whether people worship them or not. And we've never seen anyone worshiping the new gods, but since God's in their name, someone has to worship them. There's got to be a Church of Metron somewhere, right? That's how that's why he's a god. He's connected to a fundamental religious force of the universe. So when I started thinking about that, I gave them a list of what the gods were gods of, right? And because it's Kirby, they can't be like, I'm the god of war, because we already have that. It has to be a little bit off to the left. So instead of god of war, which we would assume Orion is, he's the god of soldiers, which is quite different. It's a very different thing, which allowed me to have him give that speech about what the difference is, essentially. But also, what are boom tubes? What is a boom tube? What does it do? Metron created the boom tubes, and we've been playing them as if they're transportation. But the new gods, New Genesis and Apocalypse, in my mind, they occupy their own sort of dimension. They're not in regular space. You can't fly to them, right? No matter how good your ship is, you can't ever just fly to either of those planets. You have to use a boom tube, right? So if they have their own little pocket dimension where it's just them constantly fighting at each other, what do the boom tubes actually do? Well, from my point of view, if you ever read the religious texts of various, basically any human faith, if you ever met an angel, an actual angel, they don't look like people in big white gowns and beautiful bird wings, and you will like burn to death just
They're,
looking at the
they're
face of an angel.
terrifying.
They are terrifying. You can't look directly at the face of God. It will destroy you to look directly at God, right? So I took that concept and I was like, therefore, when you use a boom tube to get from our plane to New Genesis plane, it's rearranging you in some way where you can function there. And conversely, when they come here from New Genesis or Apocalypse, it's sort of downsizing them to fit into our universe, right?
Yeah.
So when we say that these random people tried to build a mother box to get Orion to show up, they did, but it didn't work properly. So what we got was a much closer to what Orion really looks like version of Orion. The size of a skyscraper, speaking in that booming, thundering voice, like, from the heavens, you will obey me. I am a freaking God. You know, if you claim to worship me, this is how you do it. Right? And to me, I always felt like, for a lot of people, if God ever actually showed up, what would you say? Like, you claim you worship this God. What happens if he actually showed up tomorrow morning? Okay, let's hear your story. Better be a good one. Right? So with the new gods, you can do stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to do.
You're not
Probably won't play
yeah.
that. I'm not going to play that trick again. That was just for this two-parter. But little clues, like I told you everything you needed to know in the first issue, but you had to know the lore, and you had to understand what kind of writing I do, which is I'm a liar. I'm not going to. I'm not just going to spell it out for you. You're going to have to pay attention, right? I like to think like some of the things, even with the artists, I'm like, you have to make sure you draw this particular angle of this particular shot, and that these particular things have to be, they don't seem important right now. Don't make a big deal of them, but they have to be in the shot, because later we're going to need to have seen that, so that when the audience goes, wait, what? And then you go back to issue 3 or 2 or whatever issue it was, you're like, oh my God, like with John's belt. We went we went round and round about that. Like I kept going, don't forget, draw the space station on his belt. You know, oh, right. I'm like, you can't forget that. It has to be there. So Tom occasionally would have to go back in and actually add in, because the angle was a little weird, he'd have to add in that space station. I saw a couple of reviewers like, why does he have a lightsaber? I'm like, oh, are you going to be surprised? Right? But it just allows you to play with the DC universe in a way that is all sitting there. It's all set up.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, how do you want to play with it? You know? I just read I just got finished with that Hawkman, that wonderful Hawkman series, where at one point he goes to the DC Universe's version of the Microverse and runs into the Atom. That was the coolest version of the Atom I've ever seen. He's just been hanging out, having adventures in the Microverse. He has no powers. He's just the Atom down there, except now he can grow and be a giant compared to them. And I was like, this is awesome. Where's this book? This is an awesome book. He was a guest star in the Hawkman book. Yeah, he's Microlad, right?
Microlad.
So, but he's like, it was great. Like, that was such a great little series. And I don't even like Hawkman, and I like that series. Like, that was great. So I was like, yeah, play with the universe in this way. They've set up all these concepts. You're not doing anything illegitimate. It's all fine. It's just people tend not to think about them that way. And if you don't read all the DC comics, some of the clues aren't going to land on you, and that's not my fault. You need to read more DC comics.
You think it's weird that so you brought in the Legion in the Fourth World? I mean, lore from the Legion, lore from the Fourth World. Do you think it's weird that Green Lantern has never really interacted with these two properties? Isn't that really strange?
I do. Well, I think don't quote me on this, but I don't know if it's true or not. But I feel like Marvel has a way better handle on its cosmic side than DC really has ever paid attention to. And I feel like there's a push. I don't want to say push. No one has said this exactly, but I think they want to organize their cosmic side. So every time I would say I would like to use these characters, or I would like to inject this concept, I would ask permission. Because, as you say, a lot of these characters really don't interact. There was a Green Lantern arc where, I think it was called Godhead, where they came into conflict with the New Gods. Um, and it was all about the Source Wall and breaching the Source Wall. And at one point, some of the Lanterns are trapped on the wrong side of the Source Wall, and it was a fun arc. But for most of their history, there's not a lot of interaction. Um, there's a thing called the Quintessence, right?
Yeah.
Which is sort of the so Ganthet's on that, and Highfather's on that, and the Phantom Stranger's on
And
that, and I'm like
Shazam.
Shazam, and I'm like, what do you guys even do? Like, just what? Are you the Watcher? Is that all you do? You just watch us do stuff? But so again, DC is sort of poked at this in a way. In the Green Lantern book, I'm going. I'm not going to do that. I'm not like the Green Lantern book isn't to do. We're not going to define the cosmic DC universe, right? But cosmic players are. I was told you can use any of the cosmic players you want, basically. And I was like, oh,
Oh
really?
well then. Space Cabbie.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Let's get me some Space Cabbie in here. So, not really, but not really, but yeah. So what I would like to hope is I've been looking at. It's weird. After the weird controversy, I became aware of all of these various reviewers and podcasts. I guess I don't know
You're
what you call
talking
them.
about the
YouTube
Hal
channels
Jordan controversy.
talking all the Hal Jordan stuff, right? So I
Yeah.
became aware of these people, and I've been checking out some of their, their analysis of the thing, and it's interesting some of the errors that are being made. But what I realized is a lot of people are going to be pushed back a bit because one, the parts of the DC universe that I'm going to be exploring, they're going to have direct connections to the Green Lantern mythology, but I'm also going to be bringing in a lot of other cosmic stuff. And the Green Lanterns have largely, I would say 80 to 90%, really only been focused on Green Lantern stuff. Like almost 10 years of just lanterns fighting other lanterns, like
Yeah.
Yellow Lanterns, Indigo Tribe, Blue Lanterns, all the different lanterns sort of at war. The Sinestro Corps fighting itself, and what's that? Like it's all been lantern, 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 lantern. I'm like, nope, we're going out there. We're not looking at ourselves. We're going to go look out there, which means we're going to bump into occasionally beings or groups that either have never heard of us or, yeah, that's not going to work with us. We're a little more powerful than you're used to smacking around. And that's whether you have your rings active or not. It wouldn't matter whether you had, like if we get rid of the rings as we did in Future State,
Yeah.
some of these beings, it would be like, yeah, okay, bring, here, you have your ring back. Magically, I've given you your ring back. So what? You still can't beat me. Like, it's a whole world out there. There's a whole universe out there to explore and mess around with. And they seem to be okay with me doing that. So
Do you think
there's going to be a good deal with that.
do you think the hesitance in the past to have Greenland to have that property interact with the other cosmic properties of DC? Do you think it's because the Legion and the Fourth World kind of quote unquote belong to the Superman office?
I think there's probably a little bit of that. Like the way that the offices were all broken up before, they were much more like kingdoms, and I think it was just a headache to navigate all of that. Like, how are you going to use Darkseid if he's part of the Superman office? If you want to do anything significant, they might say, "Oh, that's cool. We're now going to do that. You can't do it. We're going to do it." Or, "No, you can't do that because we have plans for, you know, whatever." Like me redesigning. And when I say redesign, all I told Tom was, "This is not your grandmother's Orion. This is what close to what Orion really looks like. He should have energy coming out of his body. He should be as big as a skyscraper. Do your thing, Tom."
What you mean? He's
Right?
not a white redhead?
No, no, no. These are gods. They're
Yeah,
embodiments of fundamental forces. They are not.
absolutely. I
They're
li-
supposed to look. Yeah,
I like how the marks on his face correspond to the marks on his mask.
that was so cool.
That's really
Remember,
cool.
I didn't design this. Tom designed this. I just said make him look this like I gave descriptions, but not designs. Right?
Yeah.
So when we saw the art come back in black and white, I was like, "Whoa, go crazy, dude! This is nice." Also, it's set 2035 according to the little
Yeah.
like timeline they gave.
Yeah.
So Orion may not look like that now, but who's to say what's about to happen? You don't know. So
So that leads into my next question. Future state is in the future, 2035, 14 years from now. I was going to say 50.
yeah,
My mind is still on 2020.
I know. 14 years from now, or 15 when we started it. Yeah.
So 14 years from now. So everything that's going to happen in your Green Lantern book will eventually lead up there. Is that right? Or is it an alternate reality?
It is
Nord
not
going to live?
All I will say is what I keep saying to people: always in motion is the future. This is a very close to possible future. It is not just a random old Elseworlds. It is very close to what. It's very close to what could happen. The interesting thing about it is DC said it's 15 years in the future at that time. So I had to figure out, okay, what happened over that decade and a half that the audience isn't going to see. They're not going to see any of it. And I'm not going to spend like 4 pages going, well, 5 years into the loss of the battery, it was like this. And then 10 years in, we founded a college. I'm not doing any of that exposition crap. I'm not doing any of that. Okay? I'm just dropping you in and figure it out, just like these guys have to do. So, yeah, what I would hope is when you see Nort show up in present day, regular Nort that you expect, goofy, happy, I'm just here to have fun, guys, Nort, you should worry. You should very much worry. What's going to happen to Nort? Right? The guy who the Fire Fist is wearing his body. That's an ugly death. That's not a fun death. Even if you're a robot, something awful happened to that Green Lantern. Right?
Yep.
So you shouldn't be mad at me for making huge changes that I had almost 20 years of them going through it that you never saw to reference. And like I kept telling you before, when the battery does go down, a lot of those people are in deep space. So all of them just die. Sorry. They just die.
They just die.
They just straight up die of being in deep space without a suit. Okay? So bad things are about to happen to some of these guys. Will it lead directly to that exact moment? Maybe. I'm not going to say no, but because it's the future, I also have the opportunity to add nuance. Mm-hmm. For instance, nobody knows who Beilu Kens is. There was a lot of conversation about, I don't even know who this chick is, and she blew herself up, and I'm supposed to care? And I'm like, no, you don't know who she is. You're not supposed to care. It's an event. It will have meaning retroactively when I introduce her. Yep. Because when she shows up and says, my name is Beilu Kens, and you see how cool she is, you're going to know that it's not unlikely she's about to die on this planet at some point. So that every time I show her doing cool stuff, you're going to, oh, that was badass. Oh my God. And then it's going to hit you. Wait a minute. She dies on that planet.
She's going to die.
Right. Every time Nord is doing something goofy or accidentally saving the day or something like that, you're going to remember, holy shit, that Fire Fist killed him, and he hasn't even turned into the big giant Hulk dog thing how's that supposed to happen? Like, that is the plan. That was all on purpose. Everything is a meaning and purpose. Years ago, I keep talking about this. It came up in a conversation. Some of these things just come up in conversation. Image Comics, Wildstorm, did this thing where they flashed forward to their future. Younger people don't know this because they weren't around, but I don't remember what the numbering was, but let's say it was really on issue 20. They said, we're going to jump to issue 100. Every issue in the line next month is going to be issue 100. We're not going to explain anything. We're just going to do it. And they did. And a lot of stuff had changed in each one of these books. Like, holy crap, that person's married to so-and-so? This guy's dead? How is he in charge of that? Where did that even come from? Right? All of this stuff. And then they said, and we're not going to explain anything, but we're going back to regular numbering the month after that. When we get to 99, we are not going to print a new 100 issue. This is the 100 issue. So We will skip that month. It'll just go to 101 at that point, right? So you're going to catch up to this moment and everything's going to make sense. I don't think even the people who did Future State remember that because they're probably too young, most of them. But I freaking remembered it and I was like, oh, this is going to be smoking, right? So that's kind of what I did. But with any kind of time travel story, if there are characters that are in the Green Lantern book that are not in Future State who have huge influence over whether or not that event occurs. So as they get introduced, then you go, oh, is that the person that's going to tilt it that way? Is this the battle that made this thing happen? That should be the question in your mind.
So talk to me about the first arc of your upcoming Green Lantern. Who's in it? What's going to happen? What can we expect?
Okay, what you can expect. I don't want to spoil anything that hasn't been announced. Obviously, they've announced the battery's going to die. Mm-hmm. So we know that sometime in the first few issues, no more power battery. And with that, a huge cataclysm amongst the lanterns. And only the Green Lanterns, not the rest of them. All the rest of the lantern colors are perfectly fine. Okay. Lovely. But
the ones keeping things in balance are the ones in trouble.
I mean, I don't know. Like we've got to reshuffle the deck. Sinestro's Fear Core has been through a lot of changes since it first got introduced. So at one point they were a unified core. Yellow and green were the same entity essentially for quite a while. They aren't now, but the Yellow Lanterns are not villains. They just have a different approach to solving the same problems. So now Sinestro's a jerk, personally, right? But his idea of how to be a hero is just extremely severe. Like he's like order at all costs, essentially, which he's a bit of a fascist.
Yeah.
Right? And the people he hires are ruthless bastards, but they're not ruthless bastards in order to conquer your planet. Right? They're not out for personal gain or any of they see themselves as the good guys, essentially. It's just all you guys are weak. I'm sorry you're all so weak, because if you really wanted to solve the problem, you'd line up with us. Is their attitude. So with no Green Lanterns and Sinestro finally having no opposing force, how does he feel about that? What does he do? We may find out. The politics of the new galaxy are very much in play after the battery goes down. The United Planets and their organizational situation, their own police forces and all that, they are very much going to be in play. Not every ring goes dark. And why? A couple of rings survive. And I think it was a little bit of a shock to some people that I used Simon Baz at all, because he hadn't really gotten much light on him. He's going to be a player.
But you like that. You like doing that.
I just, it's funny. I didn't care much about Simon myself either until I started really doing deep research. And I was like, he's an interesting character. And some of the choices he's made have been odd. That's the difference of different writers just doing different things. But he deserves some spotlight. Why not? Let's see what we can do with him. So the situation I'm going to put him in is a little bit different than one might expect, but it's also going to allow his character to come out. Mm-hmm. So that'll be fun. The idea that Joe and John are going to team up together and sort of solve the universe's problems, nope. Sorry about it. That's not what's happening. Sorry.
Really? That's low-hanging fruit right there.
Sorry. No. Nope. No. So it's going to be a book about Oa, and it's going to be a book about John. And sometimes they'll overlap in a certain way, but not as directly as a lot of people are seeming to think it will be. A lot of predictions are it's going to be John and Joe and the Teen Lantern and their brown what is he, Lebanese sidekick Simon, and they're just going to solve brown people adventures. And I'm like, yeah, no. So a new bad guy. There's a brand new bad guy but
Oh, nice.
definitely link. Yeah, a brand new enemy, an oppositional force that is directly tied to Green Lantern lore, but has never been used this way before. Yeah, it's going to be fun. You'll meet them in issue 1. You'll
I'm
definitely meet them in issue 1.
I am intrigued.
Oh, you should be. It's going to be sick. And see, it's a lot of fun, but it's also very cosmic-y. Like, there's not a lot of focus on Earth, really, any at all. It's all about Oa. It's all about John in space. So, and Joe's role in this book is absolutely nothing like what people seem to think it's going to be. And the Teen Lantern, who I was like, why are we doing anything with the Teen Lantern? Like when they said you have to use a Teen Lantern, and
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna ask next. Like, what's up with the Teen Lantern?
well, I will say this to everyone who's worried about how I'm going to treat her. I don't do the precocious genius kid. I don't do that. Okay, you're not going to see her solving everybody's problems. And, well, if only Kelly were here, we could beat this monster. That's not happening, folks. She's 11, and she's a big fat liar. Okay? Kelly is a liar. Just remember I said that. She told everybody she hacked the power battery. That is a big fat lie.
Oh,
Okay? Kelly's a liar. Kelly's a kid, and she's telling everybody she's a teenager. She's a liar. She's 11 years old. She did not build that glove. She did not hack the power battery. She's a big fat liar. Okay? So just understand.
that sounds like fun to write, though.
Yeah, oh, by the way, she's a delight to write the way I'm writing her. The other thing was she hadn't really been defined really aggressively, right? Bendis basically created her for Young Justice to be their Green Lantern. She did a couple of things. John shows up and goes, "What the hell with this power glove? You need to come with me, young lady." She's like, "You can't make me do things. I'm my own person." It's like, yeah, you'll be coming with me to see the Guardians. This is some nonsense. There's no way the Guardians gave you that. I hacked the battery myself. Lie. Lie. She's not a super genius. She is not Moon Girl. Okay. She is not that character. She's not Riri. She's not building any freaking power gloves from scratch on Earth in her little Bolivian hometown that she's from.
She's not Riri, she's not Shuri, she's not Moon Girl.
No, she ain't going to be solving nobody's tech problems, I promise you. That is not happening. She's an 11-year-old girl with one of the most powerful weapons in the universe on her arm. That's exactly what she is. Does anyone want any of that? Does anyone want an 11-year-old with a Green Lantern ring? Anybody who is rational at all, do you want a child who tells lies all the time to have a Green Lantern ring?
11-year-old with a Green Lantern ring, your former president with the nuclear codes.
This is what I'm saying. Like, what is it? Somebody was making a joke. There's a horse in the hospital. We don't know why he's in the hospital. He's just in there. He's wandering around the hospital. What floor is he on? Somebody keep an eye on him. It's a horse. Like, that's the kind of thing you get with a kid. So I'm going to try and write a realistic 11-year-old, a relatively realistic 11-year-old. I did a lot of research about the economic status that she lives in Bolivia before all this happened to her. There's a couple of weird things they did in Young Justice that, if we have time, I may reference. The Guardians are extremely interested in her and where the hell this glove came from. All the guesses that I've seen online about where the glove came from, wrong. Nobody knows. Nobody said it. Nobody knows. No one's even stumbled close to it.
Oh, wow. That's a challenge for anybody watching this. That's a challenge.
Nope. You're not going to figure. I promise you won't figure it out. You won't figure it out. But also, I promise, it's not the focus of the book.
Yeah.
Right? I think sometimes when you throw in a kid character, everyone goes,
she's
"Oh,
the main thing on the cover of the first issue."
I have no control over that.
Yeah.
I was shown a bunch of cover choices. That was one of the great ones. There's a lot of artists who are going to be contributing variant covers, I guess, for a while. I get to see them and I get a vote, but I have no decision-making process control over what's on the cover. I would have gone personally with the Brian Hitch cover. The variant, I would have made that the primary cover and flipped the other one to be the variant. But I'm not editorial. It's not up to me. They felt that was better marketing. So
You know the best.
whatever.
You know the best part about this cover though, is she's arguing with the Guardian up top, and then the reactions of everyone at the bottom, like they're
I
all
know,
everything,
except
and
Guy.
Guy Gardner.
It's like he's laughing, right? No, the one thing I will say that there is some apprehension about what's going to happen to the other lanterns because the spotlight's going to be so clearly not on them. I'm sorry, everybody who loves Kyle. I'm not going to be doing much with Kyle. I'm sorry, everybody who loves Guy. I'm not going to be doing much with Guy. They'll be around and they'll do stuff, and when you see them, they're going to be as you expect them to be. But it's just there's only so much page space, and the story I'm telling isn't really about them. So
I feel like Kyle Rayner has had his story told.
it's weird the way we have to have conversations about this stuff forces me to talk about it in a way that doesn't really exist. I have nothing against Kyle. I have nothing against Jessica. I have nothing against any of the human lanterns. I agree with most of the fan base. There are too many human lanterns. I don't know why we have, 8? If you count all the ones that could potentially be lanterns, that's too many human lanterns. And they're all
9
supposed
if you
to be
count
on-
Alan Scott.
Right, and if you count Alan, it's 9. Right, the new kid that whose name I can't remember, the new Asian kid, like that's too many lanterns. There's too many human lanterns, all based on Earth, from my point of view. So, not that I'm going to necessarily do anything about that, but I feel everyone's same pain about that, and the sort of discussion of why are there not more Green Lantern books. I don't disagree with that. I feel like the concept is huge.
Yeah.
I said this the last time. Any lantern that you want to focus on is the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Kilowog is the Green Lantern. Badge is the Green Lantern, depending on who the focus of the story is, right? My beef with Hal is my beef with Hal, but it isn't the kind of beef that's going to make me. Hal's not getting punked out. He's just not. He's going to be Hal freaking Jordan, just like you expect him to be.
How much of Hal is in this book?
Hal makes appearances. But there are certain things that I was constrained to that I can't tell the audience about. For instance, as I've told you, I pitched a John Stewart story. It was never a, screw the Green Lanterns, it's just about John. It was like, I just want to tell this cool story about John Stewart. Oh, great, let's do that. And then it's sort of over a year turned into what you guys are going to see. Largely coming from the editorial at DC, like, can we expand? Can we add? Can we do this? And I kept saying yes because none of it hurt the story I wanted to tell about John, and now here we are, right? But because it was a John Stewart-focused story, there really isn't a lot of playing field left for the other lanterns in any truly central way. So it's not that they're getting hurt or killed or made to look bad or anything like that. It's just the spotlight's not on them. They are background players in this story. They are secondary characters in this story, of which there's going to be a lot of secondary characters. There's going to be a whole bunch of people you've never even heard of before that are going to get introduced in these first 4 issues. Like whole bunches of brand new people. So things that were going to go on or not go on with Hal, some of that was already set up before I was even in the mix.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I expected to do all those things? And like, oh, no. Just do the story that you contracted to do. We're just letting you know how the universe goes. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm like, cool. So the problem with these sorts of backstage conversations is I can't tell the audience things that will make them feel better. And I don't want to tell them anything that's going to undercut whatever the marketing scheme is for the company. Even if I don't always like the marketing scheme, like with the covers. And I would say you would flip them and have the Brian Hitch be the primary cover. That's not my area. It's not up to me. No one's consulting me. It's none of my business. And I'm not trying to undercut that. I'm just trying to tell a fun story. By the way, Dexter Soy is drawing the hell out of this freaking book. Like, he's drawing the hell out of this book.
Dexter Soy is used to cosmic stuff.
Dude, on page 1, you're going to know where you're living. Literally, you're going to open that cover and go, oh, he's doing this. Holy crap. Like, this is the book? This is nothing like what I thought I was going to get. Because that's Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
That's Fury Road. was very clear about that in the run-up to Future State. This is going to be a Fury Road book. So buckle the hell up, but it isn't. That's 15 years in the future, guys. What do you think? So yeah, so all of them will have their places. There'll be legitimate places. There're going to be a whole bunch of new concepts, cosmic concepts, going to be introduced. Things that to me seem kind of obvious, but will explain certain things, at least to my satisfaction. Other writers may come in and erase it all, right? But
that's comics for you.
Yeah, that's comics. But the other thing is, I'm not erasing anything that came before. Everything,
Moore's Law.
All those, yeah, Moore's Law stands always. That is it. Everything that happened happened. The only issue is sometimes, and we addressed this. I mean, the editors and I talked about this extensively. Whenever you have Grant Morrison writing a book,
oh yeah,
you have to decide how much of that is like the Morrison verse versus the regular DC universe. He's kind of like Kirby that way.
Yeah.
So you can pick and choose, but I'm not necessarily erasing anything that he did. I'm just not necessarily referencing anything that he did.
Yeah.
So, but again,
that's Grant too.
Hey, that's how he rolls. I'm gonna roll like that too.
You just cut Grant loose. what do you do?
Yeah, just let him do his thing, right? And we all love it, by the way. So it's like there's this weird sort of hostility that I just don't share. We're just gonna have a good time telling some epic stories. Some people are gonna die.
We're having a good time. Some people are gonna die.
Some people are gonna die. Some people are gonna live. You know, some people are gonna transform into better versions of themselves, hopefully. And I promise you, what you expect, you will not get.
So you're saying Kelly was an editorial edict? Was Joe also an editorial edict?
Edict is a strong word. I was
West?
asked, what do you think about these characters? Was the
Okay.
initial conversation. I think Far Sector is a perfect comic book. Of all the characters that I'm going to be writing, Joe was the one that was scariest to me because Nora Jemisin is a world-class writer and I am just a writer. But let's put it out there. I'm a guy who writes well. She's world-class, and she created on her first time out of the gate a perfect comic book. That is a difficult trick to pull off. Writing comics, even for just a good novelist, is like it's like anything. Just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're going to be good at this. Far Sector is like pretty close to a perfect comic. That's kind of a high bar.
Yeah,
So,
I think there's been a history of non-comics writers coming in to write comics and not really.
it's like wah,
doing it
wah,
well.
wah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but she did it. So I was a little intimidated. They were like, "What do you think about her?" I think she's great, but she's way over there. Like literally, it's in the title of the book, Far Sector. Like she's literally by herself. I'm not going to try and do more stories in the city enduring because I didn't even know that book was going to come to a close. I thought that was just going to run as long as Nora wanted to do it, which maybe it is, you know.
Yeah.
But they're like, all right, well, if she's cool with you doing it, are you cool to do it? And I'm like, I will give it a shot, you know, like whatever. And with Kelly, it was like, well, we have plans for her. Do you care? Would you mind if you put her in the book? Like not big plans, but we want to keep her around, basically. And I was like, yeah, I can use her. Why not? I had no opinion of her one way or the other, so there's no reason to say no. I just make it clear with the editors, like, you understand, I don't know whatever Bendis's plans were for her, so I'm going to write her the way I write her, and she really doesn't have a character that's been truly established. She's just been girl with a power ring, or power glove. But they were like, no, cool, yeah, fill in those blanks. Absolutely fill those blanks in. And I was like, okay. So, like I said, the version you're going to get of her is a much more age-appropriate version. Right?
What's the difference between like writing these two who've only really been written by one person each?
One person, yeah.
Versus writing somebody like John, who's been written by a billion people, versus writing somebody like Nort, where it doesn't really matter.
Oh, Nort. Um, I think there are differences. One is, like I said, with Nora, she's just an exceptional writer. So I have, oh, it's the first time really ever in my writing career of any kind where I have sort of this devil on my shoulder, like, don't screw this up. Very much, don't screw this up. With Kelly, it's almost the opposite because she was so undefined. Um, Nothing against Bendis. I think he was writing a book a particular way, and like until what's her name, Jenny Hex, got her own book, she
Yeah.
was just the sort of space chick with the guns. Like they were just there to do their thing and have big adventures, and the characters,
They're just there to
right?
have fun.
Yeah, basically just to be there, a book to be fun,
Yeah.
right? So, did he define her? Not so much. Um, so I get to, basically, I'll have enough time to give her a real personality and put her through some stuff. By the way, remember I told you last time nobody's safe? Kelly is not freaking safe. Just because she's 11 does not mean she's safe. She stepped into a world where there are monsters.
Is Joe
Through-
safe?
Nobody is safe.
Okay.
Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe.
Is
And
Hal
nobody.
Jordan?
Let me put it to you like this: if your ass is on Oa when I take over, you are not safe. Nobody who is physically present on Oa when I take over this book is safe.
You know, I
Okay.
can tell you're a big Alan Moore fan, and there is a Green Lantern who cannot physically be on Oa.
That is true. There's a couple. The Puffball Collective. Probably, I've told Dexter, look, you have 7,200 lanterns to choose from. We've seen a bunch of them, but we haven't seen most of them. So just have a ball with it. Make up your own lanterns, use whatever, draw whatever you want, and maybe occasionally throw in some of these characters if you want to. But Puffball Collective may or may not show up. Mogo is not very sociable, but
Not socialized.
does not socialize much. But Mogo is a presence. Mogo makes an appearance. Mogo is present, and in the manner that I thought would be logical for Mogo to be present. So, is it on Oa? No, of course not. Mogo cannot land on Oa. So, Mogo's a planet, kids. He can't do that. Okay, but who doesn't love Mogo? You can't go too long without at least invoking Mogo at some point.
At least mentioning him at some point. There's always that one thing where it's like, oh no, there's a really big Green Lantern.
Yeah, Mogo's around. Mogo's definitely around. But yeah, when I say nobody's safe, seriously, if your feet are on the ground of Oa while I'm writing the book, nobody is safe. Which should tell you that some of the characters that I've definitely said are safe may not be physically present on Oa when things go bad.
I don't think you've said anyone is going to be safe. I don't think so. I don't think you have.
I have not. But I think, the other thing is be reasonable, guys. It's comic books. What's it called? Doomsday killed Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Is Superman dead? Bane broke
Exactly.
Batman's back. Is his back currently broken?
Well, I mean, not just comic books, right? I mean, like in Dark Knight Rises, Bane broke Batman's back, and he got better with push-ups.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, and yeah, right. Like, and where was that? How far away was Santa Prisca? Like, it seemed like he just walked home from there. Like, he climbed out and he was right at Gotham. Like, come on, whatever. But
What I always said about that was I wouldn't have minded that if they'd shown me any level of competence from Batman through the entire movie, like once.
that was
Just show me
so
once.
bad. It was like, guys, what are you thinking? He didn't. Oh my. You know what? That's just a rant. That's just a rant. That's not even an interview. That's just a rant. No, but yeah. So like, I don't even know what we're talking. Look, it can't be fun if it's not dangerous.
Yeah,
These are
of
comic
course.
books, but no change. Even I, who say if you get your head cut off with an axe, you died. Even I, who say that you're dead permanently. It's only for as long as I'm writing the book, or even better, if it makes you feel better, only until DC says, "Yeah, sorry about it. That character was really popular. You're going to have to figure a way to bring him back." But
Yeah.
I killed him with an axe. I've promised the audience that if someone gets killed with an axe, they stay dead. Yeah, we're sorry about it, Geoff. That character really is playing well with people all over the world. You're bringing that character back. Like, that's the kind of crap that happens.
The
So,
last thing Grant Morrison did in his Batman run was kill Damian Wayne, and you can tell that
yeah,
he intended for
well,
him to stay dead.
yeah, he even says Damien was created to die. He said that point blank. Really? Because he's starring in his own book right now. I don't know what you're talking about.
He was back in 6 months. But the great thing about that, though, is like as a reader, if you want to just, for example, read Grant Morrison's run on Batman as its own thing, you can.
And it does what he set out to do with it. Like, all you have to do is stop.
Like, yo,
That's
let's
the
just stop reading.
Right. At this point, the story is now over. You cannot read any more Batman comic books because we've now come to the end. But yeah, he told the story he came to tell. And
Exactly.
like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. Do whatever you got to do. Right. So that's kind of my attitude too. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of fun stuff. There's going to be a lot of cosmic battles. Like there was a lot of criticism. Like, this is a book about Green Lanterns. They don't even use their rings. The battery, you were told in advance, the battery is not working. No one has rings in this book, right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody. Like, it's not just me. I didn't make that up. DC's like, the battery's going away. Use it. So, but the point being, this is the before the battery goes away. So, lots of Green Lantern action, you know?
And then the
Red
battery
Lantern
goes away.
action. Some Red Lantern action, some Yellow Lantern action.
Some Indigo, some.
No, I didn't mess with the Indigo tribe much. I find them weird. So I just go out and do your Indigo thing. And Larfeeze
Indigo's
does
a
not
real
leave.
color.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. There's Blue Lanterns and Yellow Lanterns. So when they work together, doesn't that make a Green Lantern? I'm just saying, folks. There's Red Lanterns and Yellow Lanterns. Why do we have an Orange Lantern? Like, shouldn't we just team up? I'm not messing around with any of that stuff. But I'm saying Larfeeze does not show up. None of his little henchmen show up.
Yeah.
The Blue Lanterns, I don't have any issues with, but I feel like you should use the Hope Lanterns when there's some giant issue. Like,
Yeah, they don't strike me as the kind of characters you can just use like haphazardly or anything.
you need them for something specific, and there also aren't a lot of them. So,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? So the Yellow Lanterns they'll be a presence for some of the story. The Reds show up periodically, but the story's not about the interplay between the various Lantern Corps, and it's not about those
about John.
kind of conflicts. Well, it's not about those kind of conflicts.
Yeah.
It's I really want it to be like, let's go out there. So
What is the theme of the series?
what is the theme of the series? Lying is bad. Secrets are generally bad. Keeping certain kinds of secrets is generally bad for your health. You should be upfront with people about things.
My last question about Green Lantern before you move on to your other stuff is this.
Okay.
As I know, you're a big Alan Moore fan. We've mentioned one Green Lantern Alan Moore created. There's another Green Lantern Alan Moore created.
Which one?
Rotlop fan, the F Sharp Bell.
Oh, the F Sharp Bell! I love that character. I love that. Oh, he's safe. He's absolutely safe. Yeah. Well, even if he is on Oa, he's fucking safe. I'm not hurting him. I love that guy. Like, I love him more than John. The F Sharp Bell will never, ever be harmed by Jeffrey Thorne. Never, ever, ever. He will be pristine. You could throw him at Galactus. Galactus would explode because I will never let anything happen to that precious baby. I love the F Sharp Bell. I love the F Sharp Bell.
What a concept, right? What a concept.
I'm indestructible. The author will never let me die. I can handle anything. What are you talking about? What author? What do you mean? No, I love the F Sharp Bell. I think Bill Willingham drew that first story. The
I
guy.
think he did, yeah. Fable.
I love that story. Like, more than Mogo in a way.
I mean, just
I
the
love-
idea that he does
Yeah.
not perceive color or light, so he can't
So how are
understand
you
the
gonna?
Green Lantern,
Yeah,
right?
how can you like? I love. Oh my god, I love it. I just love him. Like, but the hard thing about really truly alien characters like that is their flavor. You can never really wrap a whole book around
Yeah.
them because of the alienness. Like the Puffball Collective. Really, how are you gonna? No, I love it
Yeah.
conceptually. So you can do little short stories, or you can have them be a character in a story, or it be a character in a story. But really, an entire series about the Green Lantern, the Puffball Collective, the Adventures of the Puffball Collective. I mean, somebody, some genius might be able to do it. I'm not a genius. I can't do it. So,
Vixen.
yeah, that's my girl.
Oh man, I saw that, I bought all 3 issues. I thought it was um like what a build up, what a level up for Vixen.
I wanted to. Um, I told you the background on it. Chris heard that I had an idea about it. He went crazy and told the editors, and they said, "Would you like to do a book?" And I was like, I don't have a pitch. I just have this concept about how I think her powers work and some stuff about her lore." And they said, "Tell us." And I did. And they're like, "Do you want to write a book about that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess. Let me go think about it." And they're like, "You got a week. Come back with a pitch." And so I came back with a pitch, which they liked, and that's the book you read. Um,
The Global
while we were
Guardians.
working on it, well, I've always wanted to do the Global Guardians.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do a Global Guardians book, but I just love them. I love the concept of them. I've been wanting to mess with them for years. But while we were working on the book, I always sort of liked Vixen, but while we were building the actual book, Chris's love for the character sort of bled into me to the point where we both were like, DC, please let us write this book. Let us do this book. Like, you see what we're laying out here. We would like very much to continue with Vixen and the Global Guardians. Like, is that something you're interested in? And they basically said, let's see how the sales do when it comes out in print. So, fingers
Oh, it's got
crossed.
to be on. It's got to be the sales for print. What
It's
about the
sales is
comicsology
everything.
sales?
I don't know. Well, wait a minute. That is part of Truth and Justice, which is designed to be what it is. So you get these 99-cent, 10-page stories every week. And that might be satisfying in that format. But when you put them together, like, for instance, the way I structured the Vixen story was to have a cliffhanger at the end every 10 pages.
Mhm.
But if they said, oh, no, we're not going to do that. We just want you to put it out as a salt like we did with the King in Black. 30 pages, one shot, go. Then it would have been structured differently because I wouldn't have had a cliffhanger every 10 pages. The story would have been doled out slightly differently. It would have been just a different kind of story. Same plot, different story, right? So when the book comes out in its assembled form and we see how the public responds to it, I think they will respond well. Then DC will have a decision to make. And they could make the decision and not use either me or Chris. They could go, great idea, guys. Bendis is doing it. They could. I wouldn't be mad at them. I'd like to see the book, even if I'm not the one doing it. But Chris and I talked. We have some plans. You saw how I sort of shifted things up with the Global Guardians.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing that nobody really talks about is I added an Olympian. Like, of all of the things that people want to talk about with that book, the fact that there's Olympian 1 and 2 now, a married couple who share the superpowers so that they can do child rearing duties together. Come on. Like, who doesn't want to play with that? And Olympian 2 everybody likes, and Olympian 1 everybody thinks is a jerk. Because he's so braggy and he's like, he's worn the fleece too much and it makes you turn into a big, like, I'm the greatest. It turns you into that if you wear it too much. So now he shares it with his wife. He's powering down and she's never going to turn into that because she always can hand it off.
Yeah.
Right? So they're always like, please, going to be Olympian 2. Can Olympian 2 come and save the day with us? Because that guy just talks so damn much.
And
Yeah.
the way that you set him up in, the start of that second issue, where you kind of made it all, you really do kind of compare it to the Justice League. That's
what we're
hell of a
doing
build-up,
is,
yeah.
what we tried to do was two things. One, there's the Vixen track, because she got a lot of information about herself that she'd never heard before in this adventure. She's like, what does that mean? Why are you referring to me that way? What is this crap? Right? We're going to talk about this later because I have a job to go do, like a real world job where I earn money. I have to go back and now do that. But the other thing we sort of set up sort of obliquely is 50,000 years ago, um, there was something like the Justice League running around the planet doing the stuff that the Justice League does, right? Gilgamesh, Oya, Ishtar, bunches of characters that have never appeared in or have only briefly appeared, some of them, in DC Comics, out of heroes of legend and myth from pantheons you don't see in DC Comics. They used to run the planet and protect it the way the Justice League does now. The only surviving member of that group, Dr. Mist, who was like the kid wizard back then, right? So that sort of gives you an inkling of where the idea for the Global Guardians even came from and whatever their mission might really be as opposed to what the UN thinks their mission is, right? So there's a lot of fun stuff to be done with it. And Vixen's lineage and history, why she has the powers she has, what the powers actually are, what she can do with them. I didn't do anything new with how her powers work. I just looked them up. I was like, what can she actually do? And the difference between her and Animal Man is profound because she can use any animal that has ever lived on Earth, ever. Even if it's an extinct species, she can still has access, and she can stack up the animals at the same time. So
Neither of which she ever did.
Right. Not in this book.
Yeah.
She didn't do that in this book. What I wanted to do in this book was keep it simple. The first thing that I realized was, you keep saying this about her, but all she ever chooses is African animals. You say she could do any animal. Why is she always choosing cheetahs and freaking, kites and, lions and stuff? Why would she choose those wimpy ass animals when we have the entire insect kingdom to choose from, right? We haven't even started talking about bacteria. The stuff Vixen can do is terrifying. She just had to realize it. So she has realized the sort of potential of what she can do now. So I would not use I don't know which writer did this, but someone gave her the ability to be fantasy animals. I'm ignoring that. That's not a power that she has. She can't become a kraken. She can't use the power of the kraken. That's not happening. She can't use alien animals, only animals that come from Earth. Right? And I would like to say, I don't know if I'll hold to this, but only while she's on Earth or in some magical realm that's connected to Earth. If she's on another planet, she's just human.
Oh. Can't access the powers of the animals there?
According to me, she's just human. I don't know, because there's no book yet,
There's none.
what that will mean. Look, every superhero needs real weaknesses, or what's the point? Right? So it can't just be, we rip off the Tantu totem and she has no powers. I got rid of that in this book. She still has the power. She just isn't as good with them without the necklace, right? But on another planet, the absolute best I would say is it would take her a long time to tap into whatever their animal kingdom was. So until she could figure it out how to do it, she's just some chick on another planet.
Oh, because she'd have to know what the animal is.
She'd have to be able to feel it and understand it. And remember, whether you believe in evolution or not, all animals share DNA. We all have the same DNA. Every animal, every tree, every blade of grass, everything that exists on this, almost every organism that exists on this planet has DNA. That's not true of an alien species. They may have been basing their genetic structure on a completely other set of compounds. So how is she accessing their animal life? Like, she might be able to because it's magic, but it would be a learning curve.
That's a story.
It is a story for some other writer, some genius writer, to tell that story. Someone out there could tell it. So it was just fun, and it was truly just fun. I mean, you can see the difference right away between what we're trying to do with Future State and the fun we were having with Vixen. It was a very simple story.
Yeah.
Sort of bombastic, a lot of silly concepts thrown in. I say silly in the sense of it's a straight up superhero story.
Yeah.
There's no extra spin on it. It's just you've got a quest. I don't want to hear about it. She even says like, "Oh, I get it.
You've
Big
got
quests.
You've got a thing you need to beat. And you know what?
Yeah.
A couple of things that I really liked about your story. You could tell that you work in the entertainment industry
Yeah, that was none of that was bogus.
because
I
that
literally witnessed that stuff.
really that actually happens.
Well, that event didn't happen, but I've seen behavior like that all my life. I've been in the entertainment industry since I
Yeah.
was 14. I've seen a lot of that kind of behavior. There's nothing far fetched about any of that. That was the most realistic aspect of the story.
So like you've seen instances where a black actress would be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna pose you next to a lion," or
I have seen people freak out about things like that, not that exact
uh
moment.
huh.
It doesn't necessarily have to be an actress. I've seen actors do crazy stuff. I had, I don't want to out anyone, but I remember working when I first started. I was on a show. I was a guest. I wasn't a regular or anything. There was a guy on a show, and he would not come out of his dressing room because he had measured it, and it was 5 or 6 square inches smaller than was contractually obligated. And until that was corrected, I will not appear on the set.
Lovely.
Um, I was in a movie once, I won't say which one, where one of the stars of the movie had a portable full size basketball court brought to location, assembled, 2 hoops, full size regulation basketball court, just in case he wanted to shoot some hoops by himself, and a guard to make sure nobody else messed with it.
So were you in Space Jam?
I'm not going to tell you. But it wasn't a basketball player, I will tell you that. It was
Okay.
absolutely not a basketball. In fact, that makes it worse. It wasn't a professional basketball player.
Yeah,
It
because I
was
was gonna
just some
say in Space
dude.
Jam, that's understandable.
No, no. I'm just saying, the stuff that I put into the things about the entertainment industry are never as bad as real stuff that I've seen in the entertainment.
Insane. And the other thing that I like is Impala was
He's great.
I love, you know what? People should have like weaker versions of certain powers, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It's like,
like
I'm not as fast as the Flash. It's like what's wrong with you?
like I'm really fast, but yeah.
Like that guy's magic. I'm not good like that. Let's not even start on the wrong foot. But the fun part of superheroes to me is it's kind of like it's not what you can do, it's how well you do it. And like you've seen Barry, for instance, at the very end of the story when they're fighting the giant god things, he does the whirlwind trick with the arms, but it hurts him. Like he's really exerting himself, and it hurts. Like the Flash just goes,
Yeah.
whatever, creates a tornado, and Paula's got to work for it, man, and it hurts him.
That's all.
Um, he doesn't have any speed force. So one of the things I talked to Chris about was when he's moving at Mach 2, running along the ground, he's leaving a wake behind him. He has to choose how and where he's going to go so he doesn't hurt anyone by just running, right? Because he's leaving essentially a whirlwind behind him, right? He's churning up dirt. The only thing that protects him from the effects is the magic of the face mask, right? But it isn't the speed force. So like he can generate friction if he's moving too fast. If he comes to a halt, he has to have enough room. His own inertia will catch up to him. He has to have enough room to skid to a halt. Because if he just stopped on a dime, all that inertia would hit him and he'd slam into something. That might not hurt him, but it might break the thing, right? He might smash through a wall accidentally. So every superhero has to have real weaknesses, not some crap like Kryptonite where you have to find it and it has to come from your planet and there's like 10 pounds of it on Earth. Like, no, you have to have a real weakness. Like,
You know my favorite story about Kryptonite ever is the idea that it was just created because the guy who was voicing him on the radio show needed to go on leave. So they had to have a whole episode where he was just grunting in pain. Like,
that's hysterical. I didn't know that story. That is awesome.
the best.
That is so dumb. I love that. Kryptonite irks me. It has always irked me. And then there was like all the different kind, gold, blue, red, white, black. I'm like, stop with the kryptonite. Just give him some real weaknesses. Good Lord.
Or in my estimation, just give him more powerful villains.
Yeah, well, the
Right?
problem with character, this is the thing. I talk about this a lot with other comic book fans, everybody gets mad about overpowering characters, and I am one of those people. But they strangely never get mad if your character gets overpowered. Like, everybody hates that Batman wins everything,
Unless
except Batman fans. Then it's like, how did he not win that? Batman wins everything. How can he possibly be beaten by that character? Nobody can beat Batman. He's Batman. I'm like, no, somebody should be able to beat his ass, right? You should have every 10 or so issues, someone should work him over really, like, holy crap, that guy beat the crap out of Batman. It's not going to be easy this time. Or what's the point?
Let me tell you something, fans. Any superhero with prep time will probably win.
Facts. If they're smart.
If they're smart, and they'll probably.
Wally West is not a genius, so it doesn't necessarily matter how much prep time you give him. I love Wally, but he ain't nobody's genius. So yeah. But yeah, so with overpowering heroes, then you have the problem you just sort of outlined, which is if Superman can move a planet by himself, who's he fighting?
Mm-hmm. Somebody.
Somebody more powerful.
You think that's why the movies keep going back to Zod?
I think it's.
I feel a rant coming on.
It's lazy writing. I think the best version of Superman to date is the Justice League cartoons and the
I agree.
Adventures of Superman cartoon. There's not been a better one. The second best one to date is the Donner Films version. And the third best version is Smallville. The pre-Superman story.
Yeah.
After the first season of Monster of the Week, that became one of the greatest Superman stories ever told, until the final season where it's, you stayed too long at the party. You should have finished this last year. Why are we all still here together?
I jumped off at season 4.
Yeah, they should have. Just pull the plug. I know it's a success. Just pull the plug. You're out of stories.
At this point, 4 seasons in, if Luthor's not evil yet,
we're done. Well, what are we doing here? Right? Plus, you can't play them like teenagers. They're clearly grown-up people. Why is he not Superman yet? But yeah, and the thing that they have all in common is, even the Donner version, he wasn't godlike. He had real weaknesses. He had limitations. And the thing I thought was fun about the Donner movie was he was told, don't try to change the course of time, which implies you can. But all he really did was fly so fast that he went back in time. He did not do anything to everyone else. He just moved at a velocity that theoretically would send you backwards, right? Okay, but he wasn't eating the sun by himself. He didn't stave off an entire alien invasion alone against people who are equally as powerful as himself. Come on.
Commercial. I had Chris.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How was it? Is he crazy?
He's crazy. We're talking about him challenging Dwayne McDuffie to basketball.
Well, they're both gigantic.
They're both 6'9".
Yeah, Dwayne was gigantic.
And he was like, yeah, Dwayne is bigger, but I would have worn him out.
I think that's true. Dwayne was not an athlete, so I don't. Yeah, believe me, I'm 6'2". It's rare that I'm in a room where I'm like, whoa. This is very interesting. This is what normal people feel like around me. This is great.
See, this is why I'm 5'9", and for the Philippines, I'm really tall.
Sure.
But when I go to America, I'm like,
yeah, the land of the giants.
Why are you all so big?
It's all that beef they make us eat when we're kids.
So Chris Cross was on the show, and I asked him about a particular coloring issue.
I'm sure he responded calmly. Did he? He was not happy that day. He was so not happy. I mean, I just try to be reasonable.
You want to field that question?
Yeah, he was not happy, and I agree with him. He should have been unhappy. As weirdly controversial as I've been, for the most part, I try to be reasonable, which seems to make people very angry. When I'm like, no, it's just like this. This is the way it is. I'm sorry about it, but this is the way it is. They don't want to hear that. They want to have a fight. Chris is not having any of that. He's like, I did not draw it that way. You are talking out of your asses. He didn't say that. He doesn't swear, I don't think. But he was just not having that. And I was like, okay, I guess it's time for me to go now. But, we talk about this as people of color. There is a real issue there. We were both irritated that they would think we would fall into that trap. Like Chris and I think he's a little bit lighter hued than I am, like
A little bit.
slightly.
Unless your lights are lying to me.
No, this is about right. This is
Yeah.
about right for me. You, by the way, are roughly the same shade as my dad and my
Yeah.
brother. So the idea that we would fall into the colorism trap of dark-skinned men, light-skinned, beautiful women, like we don't do that. We would never do that. In fact, Chris got a lot of heat for his redesign because he took away the Anglo hair that so many people have given Vixen over the years, where she's kind of like Storm, where we say she's black, but her hair strangely is very Nordic, like, and gave her a haircut that a black woman might have. And we got a little bit of heat for that, and I was like, I'm all with Chris on this. She's a model, and I even posted up on my site. Here are pictures. I think we had made contact by then. There was a period of time where I just went and found a whole bunch of black models. Because I didn't say it was a subtweet, I guess, because I was responding to these criticisms, and I was like, "Have you ever actually seen a professional black model, especially an African one? No? Well, here's about 50 of them. You know what they don't have? Straight hair, as if they were born in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll put on a wig, or they'll get a hairstyle to make, for whatever the shoot is. But their actual hair, and in Africa, where a lot of these people are from, nobody's trying to look white. They have their own ideals of beauty. So we were like, Vixen plays as an American because her character spent most of her formative years in the United States in the story reasons, right? She ran away, had to hide out in the U.S. and be an American. So she sounds and sort of acts like an American, but she's an African woman. Like, not an African-American woman, an African woman. So we wanted to sort of speak to that, and if we got to do the book, and I talked to Chris about this. This is kind of a scoop. If we ever do the book, remember in Marvel Comics, the only character who was constantly changing costumes was a Wasp.
Yeah.
Right? She's rich chick. She's fashion plate. She's like, I don't know about you all. This is fun. This superheroing is fun. So I'm going to be changing costumes whenever I damn well feel like it. And that held true from every artist, every writer. The Wasp never maintained a straight costume for anybody's run of their. Whenever you were on the book, you knew she was going to have at least 2 different costumes over the course of the book, right? That's what we're going to do with Vixen.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
very
a
cool.
different hairstyle. She is a model. She is a professional model. She's going to be wearing some gear. You're going to be like, why would anyone go out like that? But have you seen how these ladies dress? They are in the height of fashion all the time. So what normal people wear, they'll be like, oh yeah, I do that on weekends. But for fun at this party, I'm going to have a giant Saturn floating around my head. Like, just we're going to have fun with it. But she's going to be a straight up black woman. So Chris's irritation with that's not an area you want to come for either one of us on. On a bad day, that could have been really ugly because it would have been both of us. But if I show a Filipino woman, she's going to look like a freaking Filipino woman, right? I'm not going to make her blonde to, I don't know, make somebody feel more comfortable. I don't know why that would make you feel more comfortable. Like, there are plenty of beautiful women from every walk of life, and you might need to get out more.
Quite a few Filipino women dye their hair.
Sure. And if that's in their character,
yeah,
I will do that, right? What's her name? Grace Choi in The Outsiders. Tattoos up and down her arms, muscly, taller than everybody, has black and red hair sometimes, or black and purple hair sometimes. That's not hurting her. That's how she styles her hair. It's her character, right? This colorism thing is a big deal. And I understand it, obviously. How could I not? But I will never be guilty of that. I will never be guilty of that. Like, I just never will be. And I think on the internet, people spend a lot of time trying to make other people back down. And so I always stand on facts. I'm like, you said this, but here's a picture from the inside of the book. This woman is the same color as me. Would you describe me as a light-skinned person? No, you would not. I am milk chocolate. right? And and then Chris got mad because, well, look at the black guy. And I think he was mad. He's like, do you think that we would make a black man actually be black? Like, actually black? Like, Impala, when his powers are turned on, he's covered with like an onyx sort of skin armory thing, right? When he turns it off, he's the same color as Vixen. Like, are you crazy? Stop arguing with the wrong people. Go fight some actual battles. Like, it's just ugh.
Representation is a I don't know.
Well, Chris got hot about it, and I understood it because he drew it. I could have backed away and said, "Oh, I just wrote it. I don't know what they're doing. The colorist and the artist, that's about my area." But it was nonsense. Like, let me make a mistake before you jump on me.
I think it was maybe even the first time. I mean, clearly I'm not black, so I can't really speak too much of it.
What? How dare you?
But I think it's the first time I saw a comic with multiple black characters, and they're all colored differently.
Really? How shocking! Well, we talked about Avatar the last time.
Yeah.
One of the things that most people don't think about is Asians. That means everywhere from the Middle East through India,
No one
up
thinks
into
that.
Russia,
Yeah.
right? Up into Russia, and of course Japan, and various parts of Polynesia, Malaysia. All of that is Asian, which means there are white, super light-skinned Asians. There are super dark-skinned Asians, and they're all Asian. So when you're watching Avatar, one of the subtle things they did was make sure you understood that that's true,
Yep.
right? No white people, no black people, no Latin people. Everybody's Asian, and yet look at this diversity of color.
Yeah. Toph is a little lighter than everybody else. And
Right? Korra is way darker than
Korra is
everybody
way
else.
darker than everybody else.
Right? Then they had the guru guy who was clearly meant to be a Hindu
Yeah.
analog. Like, and this is not accidental. This is clearly on purpose. They could have made everybody yellow, so they didn't. And it's the same thing with black people. And frankly, it's the same with white people. If you go to Europe and you look at a Spaniard, a white person, and then you go to Northern Europe and look at an Irish person, another white person, they're both white, but one of them's brown. Right? Like, it's nonsense. Like, it's just nonsense.
One of my pet peeves lately is seeing the comments for Raya the Last Dragon.
Yeah.
Because it's
Looks
like
pretty.
it looks great, but the comments are like, "Oh, she just looks like Moana's cousin." I'm like, she does not look like Moana's cousin. She looks nothing like Moana. You're just not used to seeing a woman with this skin color.
Exactly. Like, get out more. Open a magazine. What is wrong with you people?
And
Jesus Christ.
the other thing that I see is, oh, why is she dressed up like a character from Avatar? And I'm like, because the characters from Avatar are drawn with, their costumes are based on traditional clothing.
Dude, I got into a huge argument about Avatar where they were mad. I didn't even start it. Somebody said they were mad about the M. Night Shyamalan version. I was like, of course they were. That was a piece of crap. I will never watch that movie. I saw the trailer for that movie and wanted to start a freaking riot. I was like, what the fuck? Right? No. Why? Where'd all these white people come from? What are you doing? You yourself are South Asian. What are you doing? Right? Did you miss the point? Right? And this person was like, why can't they be white? They can be white. They can be anything. I'm like, no, they really can't. And it's not necessary. Why do you want that? Right? And so we got into this whole thing. It's like, well, they're not real. And I was like, they are clearly based on ancient China, ancient Japan, and ancient Inuit and Aleut cultures. Are you stupid? Like, it's right there, right? And this person's like, you're just making up stuff because you're a racist and all this. I'm like, no. So I went and literally found photographs of Inuit people in traditional dress from like the 1800s, not even modern, right? And I was like, you see this picture? Now tell me where the water tribe came from, right? Crickets, because it's nonsense. It's nonsense. So
just their hairstyles.
Like, oh, shut up. Please stop. Even the Sun tribe. They even did the thing with the Sun people where they went and did the dragon dance.
Yeah.
one thing that people in the United States always conveniently forget: the indigenous populations here are largely Asian descended, Proto-Asian, crossing the straits, coming across the ocean from where? Asia to to be settled in North America for thousands of years. So they don't necessarily all superficially resemble one another, but genetically
Yep.
the same groups. So we saw that with the Sun Tribe. When we finally met the Sun Tribe, we saw a bunch of essentially Aztec / Native Americans,
Absolutely.
right?
I like a lot of people when I was in the U.S. They thought I was a Native American. Like
Yeah, I can see that.
I could
I can
pass.
see that. I can see that.
I could pass. Go on.
Filipinos have an interesting pedigree, though, right? Like, depending on your specific ancestry, you can fall into any category.
We could,
Like,
yeah. I'm
yeah,
part
like
Spanish
different.
and part Chinese,
There you go.
so
So, and that's another thing. You
and
can
but
like
mostly Filipino.
my half my family's from Barbados.
Hmm.
So I remember being at a bar once, a restaurant, and some lady sat down next to me and she's like, "Which island are you from?" I have a bet with my friends over there. And I was like, "Which island am I from?" "I'm from Washington, D.C." Like, what are you talking about? And she said, "Okay, where is your family from?" And I said, "Oh." And as soon as I started to say bar, like, she's like, "I knew it! Barbados!" Right? And I was like, "Are you telling me that there's an island of black people and they look so much alike that you can tell that I, who have only 1/4 of that, and probably descended from those people?" She's like, "If you went to Barbados, everyone looks like you." And I was like, "No, they don't. That's insane." Right? But I didn't know this woman. She pulled it out. There was no way she could have known. Right? Maybe
Yep.
she's telling the truth. I've never been to
That's
Barbados.
interesting. That's interesting.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. So,
so speaking of representation, Wakanda, how important was it for you to write that story? And
dude, man, the stupid Black Panther's been just. I love the Black Panther. It's been so much fun since Priest reinvented him, and I always wanted a chance. Obviously, I got to run the cartoon, um, and that was so much fun. And I always wanted to write the actual book, but Ta-Nehisi Coates beat me. Among others, there was a pack of us trying to write the book at the time, and he won. That's fair, whatever. But I figured, all right, I'm never going to get to write this book. And Will Moss just contacted me out of the blue and said, "Hey, would you like to do a one shot?" And I was like, "Yes! What is it about?" And he's like, "Well, we're going to do this King in Black thing." And I was like, "I don't know what that is."
Yep.
Right? And he's like, "Well, here's everything that's been written about King in Black so far." This was last year sometime. And I read it all, and I was like, "What do you want me to do?" Like, I'm like yelling. He's like, "Anything you want. It's a one shot. You can do anything you want. Just don't kill the Black Panther," basically. It's like, why would I kill the Black Panther? So
that would be a terrible thing to do at this point
there
in
was,
time.
oh my God, no, I know. I separate that out.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those who links the actor to the role. I thought he was a courageous, amazing man. The more of his story I learned, the more I was like, wow, this guy was an exceptional human being. But I'm not a person who thinks he's actually the Black Panther,
Yeah.
right? Um, so writing the character, it was interesting because I'm not actually a fan of the current run. I like I like Brian Stelfreeze's redesigns, and his artwork is fantastic. But I basically checked out of the Black Panther as soon as the first rape camps showed up in Wakanda. I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. I'm not reading this. Which isn't to say that it's not a legitimate choice. It just wasn't for me. I'm not reading a version of Wakanda that includes that. So, so I figured my time with the character was basically done. And then this came out of nowhere, and I said, okay, well, I'm just going to try and write a sort of a Black Panther movie. Like, it's going to be self-contained. I'm not going to worry about the plot lines that are going on elsewhere. I'm just going to try and make this tie-in actually tie in with the ongoing story. So the fact of what happens to Storm, I didn't make that up. That happened in issue 1 or 2 of the main King in Black story. But I thought, okay, well, they're not really married anymore. They had some falling out about different things. Some stuff happened in X of Swords that, just stuff was going on. But that doesn't mean you stop loving the person. That doesn't mean you want to see them die. Like, essentially what he saw was the love of his life, even if he's not with her, get turned into a freaking monster with no way to come back. So she's dead. And now I'm not going to let that happen in my nation. There's no way I'm letting that happen to my sister. I'm out. I'm going to go solve this problem. And that's essentially what the book is. How does he solve this problem? Germán is a fantastic artist. The way he realized Wakanda and Jesus with those colors, holy crap! Like that's just some amazing work. It's funny, these last few books I've been writing have had casts of thousands. Right? The poor artist has to draw and then they fight an army of blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's easy to write, but that poor guy's got to draw each one of these little monsters. But I tried to pay homage to basically all the versions of the Black Panther that have existed. There are some things I wanted to do that we couldn't do because of the way Marvel is structured. Mm-hmm. Like when Shuri turns herself into the multiple Shuris, mm-hmm. the multiples were going to be, one was going to be the cartoon version of Shuri, the other was going to be the movie version of Shuri, and the other was going to be the Reggie Hudlin version of Shuri.
Not allowed.
Right? I tried it, and they were like, no, you can't do that for various reasons. If we had more running room, essentially, if we'd had more lead time, we could have got all the permissions, but we don't have time, so change it. So I was going to do stuff like that. And there was stuff with page count I couldn't do. There was, the first script was much longer than the final script, because I had to cut so many things. But what we got on the page, I think, was great. There was a whole sequence I wanted to do where when he first arrives and he gets that group back to the main city, you were going to see some of that and watch some of them get taken. And he starts out with 100 guys and ends up with 22.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to see that. No one ever got to see that. It was too much. I had to cut it. So, and I just got to play around with the mythology in a way that I finally wanted to. The whole thing with Shuri doing alchemy, that's me. Nobody else has done that. I wanted to sort of differentiate the kinds of geniuses they are, right? They're both supposedly geniuses, but mm-hmm. Shuri's a pragmatist in a weird way. She's like, we need to run. We have enough people, we can get them in ships or whatever our magical Wakandan tech will do for us, get the hell out of Dodge. And he's like, there's nowhere to run. The whole world is this. We have to stand and fight, and I've got a plan. And he's a guy with a plan. The Black Panther to me is a guy with a plan. He's got a plan on a plan on a plan on a plan.
He's the ultimate prep time guy.
Yeah, because it's everything for him is prep time. Yep. Something bad may happen. I need to be ready for it. Oh, there's such a thing as Galactus? Well, we'd probably need to figure a way to kill that because it might show up here one day. Let's have a contingency plan. He's that dude. So, and one thing that's interesting about the book, to the criticism, or there's not been very much criticism, is wow, he just jumped in and started doing all this stuff. He just knew what to do. And I'm like, no, he flew to Wakanda from New York City. He had travel time to think. I literally show you him arriving. Yep. Where do you think he was coming from? Right? So all of the way over, he came up with a plan. It's just, can I get there in time to save my people is the big issue.
Interesting, because you're the fourth person I've talked to who's worked on a King in Black, side thing.
Yeah, tie-in.
Tie-in. I was losing my words. So
no
King in Black tie-in, and a common thread is people seem to really like working the tie-ins on this event.
There's so much room to play with it. That's why. Mine is sort of like a zombie story. I'm guessing some of them have been more like a straight up battle of the warfare type thing. Some of them are more mystical horror type stories. Yeah. And
all
I think
over the
because
place.
Because of the way they described Null, that was allowed. I asked a lot of questions. When Null takes over a body, what does it mean? Is he aware of everything that they're aware of, or are they just puppets to him? Is he magic? Is he an alien organism? And some of that stuff comes out in the text of the story, which is he predates both of those things. Whatever he's doing, it's before there was such a thing as magic. It's before there was such a thing as science. He is like the second thing that was ever alive in the universe. So whatever he's doing encompasses all of these other things. So that gave me a lot of room to play with especially with Shuri's thing, where she has all these sort of fake puppet versions of herself that are made out of magic, but they're all her. So when he takes over all of them, he takes over her.
And
Right.
this is going to go up after that comes out, so just tell me about
Okay.
the Prowler.
So obviously, I love the Prowler. They came to me and said, "We've heard that you love the Prowler." And I says, "I do, but I don't like the Aaron, what's his name, guy that's
Davis.
part of the Aaron Davis. I don't have anything against him. He's just not the Prowler that I care about. Kind of like Hal. I just don't care, right? Whatever. But they're like, no, Hobie Brown. I was like, oh, you're going to make him the Prowler again? And they're like, well, and I was like, all right, let's all hold our horses, because I like the Prowler Hobie Brown. They're like, well, let us tell you what we think. You tell us if you want to work with it. And so they told me what they thought. And I was like, you found the one way, literally the one way that you could get me to write a Hobie Brown that is not the Prowler. Right? So that's what it is. And we're going to revamp him. This definitely comes out after the book comes out.
This comes out after the book comes out.
Okay.
I won't
He's
have
gonna
time.
He's going to be the Hornet. Which is the identity he made for Spider-Man years ago. It was part of the Slingers book.
Yeah, during his identity crisis.
Right, during his identity crisis, but no one's using the identity anymore. So he got back all of the old armor and stuff that he built. It's just been sitting around his house. So he promises his girlfriend he won't be the Prowler anymore. But I never said I wouldn't be the Hornet. So, and Jan just knocked it out of the park. Like, the first couple of pages are great, but when you see him really get down, it's only 10 pages, it's a 10-page story, but his solution to the null, the symbiote problem is fun. It's a very Spider-Man-y type of story. So,
Oh my
Yeah.
god. I can't believe the Hornet is coming back.
the Hornet is coming back. The Hornet is coming back. But in a very interesting way, which won't be really seen. You'll just see him as the Hornet in this. But hopefully what we talked about doing with him, whether I'm the writer on it or not, the new version of Hobie is going to be sort of like a super MacGyver. Like, I want to write it. I don't know if they'll let me, but we've sort of revamped him as a guy who's like, he's everything Tony Stark is with none of the money to go to the right
Yeah.
schools. Right?
That's what he is.
That's it, right? So Stan used to invent this kid all the time. Like, Peter Parker is the same guy, right? Poor kid from where's he from? Queens.
Yeah.
That,
Peter is Reed
Invented-
Richards. Peter
He's
is Reed
Reed Richards,
Richards. Hobie is Tony.
and it's Tony, right? Except neither of them had the advantages of those two guys. So, but Peter, people always forget, and I put this in Mosaic, he invented the web fluid. He was, what, 16? And he went home and used chemicals I'm guessing you can buy at a grocery store and created the web fluid. He's one of the smartest people on Earth. Okay? Hobie saw superheroes running around, had no college education, just barely out of high school, poor kid from, I'm guessing, Brooklyn. And he's like, I can do that. And goes and builds a super suit that puts him on par with Spider-Man. Out of what? Stuff he got at a hardware store? Like, he's one of the smartest human beings on Earth. On Earth!
Yes, he is.
Right? So let's play with it. And so I that's part of what my pitch to them, how I would do him. And they're like, oh, that's fun. Basically, he's a guy that if you knock him down, you better hope you don't knock him into a Radio Shack.
He's also,
Because-
I think, the smartest character in the first 100 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, actually.
Certainly. He and Peter are on par with one another. They just
Yeah.
have sort of different. He's more of an engineer. And Peter's more of a chemist.
Yep.
Right. So, like, he's it's what you said. Peter's all over the place like Reed Richards. Hobie is more like Tony Stark building gadgets.
Yeah, he's an engineer.
He's an engineer.
Yeah.
So, but he's crazy because he's self-taught. So all the stuff that he does, no normal engineer would even think about trying to do it. Like, why would you build a suit that did that? Nobody told me I shouldn't. Like, so.
Are you using the old design for the Hornet? The old one?
I'm trying to get them to do a mixture of the Prowler design with the Hornet design. I don't know
Okay.
if I'll win that argument, and I've never really been a fan of the Hornet colors. So what I'm hoping is what they're going to let me do is keep upgrading his systems like Tony did with the Iron Man armor, so that Hornet 1.0 will look basically like you expect the Hornet to look, but Hornet 2.0 will be more towards what the Prowler.
It looks more and more like the Prowler.
Yeah, he'll never be Prowler colors. He'll never have the cape and all that kind of stuff. But like his face mask will be the Prowler, but with different colors.
Yeah.
Things like that. And also, I'm going to play him more like a gadgety spy type guy. Like he's just a guy with all kinds of weird stuff that you're like, what does that do? And he'll like assemble a power glove out of like, just looks like wires and stuff like. Just stand back, everybody. Okay, wham, like that. Why did you have that?
I love it.
You know, yeah, he's that dude. And one of the things we're going to do with it is make his wife Mindy. She's often been played as sort of the long-suffering, my husband's crazy, damsel in distress type. But people forget she's a lawyer. So I took her out of corporate law and put her into criminal law. And she was regular criminal law, and then she's a public defender type stuff. So his whole thing was like all superheroes. I was just trying to protect you, baby. I didn't want you to know about my secret double life. She's like, are you crazy? I deal with hardened criminals as part of my day. What is wrong with you? The people I deal with, I've gotten murderers off, like, or put them away. And if they come looking for me, I'm not calling you. I'm going to call the cops. Right? It's like, okay, we need to just calm down here. It's like, yes, we do, Hobie, you crazy son of a bitch. Why am I in love with you? You are stupid. So their relationship is very much that. But what I wanted to do with it is, if, again, we get to do more, they become very much a unit where her strengths really are what keep it's not a business, but the Prowler business.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, all right, look, the next time your ass gets in trouble, because you will, because you're stupid, here are the things you say when the cops bring you in. Here's who you call right away, and it's not me because I'm your wife, right? Those kind of things. These are your legal avenues when you make a citizen's arrest. You're allowed to do that, but you're not allowed to destroy a restaurant while you do it. Okay? Damn it, Mindy. It's like, don't damn it, Mindy me. I don't want you to go to jail anymore. You keep going to jail because you're stupid, right? So it's that kind of relationship. And then she gets into trouble. Like, she's not, like, he's going to make sure she's outfitted with his gadgets. So, like, you're going to think she's got nothing going on, but in her purse or in her pocket, she's going to have some lethal-ass equipment that she would never use, except when the stilt man takes over her building or whatever. And it's like, ha-ha, I've got you alone. She's like, yes, just where I want you. Zam! Like that. So they'll be a fun couple, and they'll be a real couple. They won't be one of these, like, is he cheating on me? None of that. They're going to be a real couple. So I hope Marvel lets us. The same thing with Vixen.
Yeah.
It all depends on if people really spark to the character. If they do, I told them I'm down to write it. I will write it.
When I was a kid, one of the first and only letters I ever wrote to Marvel was, please give the Prowler his own series.
The Prowler's the shit. I love the Prowler. I love the Prowler. I love the Prowler. My wife is yelling at me. I now have to go away. One, don't make so much noise. Two, it's time for you to go walk the dog. So
take care, Geoff.
All right, so hit me up whenever.
Yeah.
Maybe we should definitely reconvene. Certainly after Green Lantern 1 comes out.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's going to be an eruption of some kind.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Yeah, let's do that. And
Thanks,
just let
Geoff.
me know when this comes up, and I'll
I will. Yeah.
blow it up.
Not
All
an
right, brother.
issue. Thank you.
All right.